بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات. وقال الله تبارك وتعالى شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربي زدني علما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, it is through the fadl and the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given us this opportunity today to sit and to discuss how we can make this blessed month of Ramadan productive, fruitful and beneficial for ourselves. Before I begin with today's presentation, I would like to mention that every act of worship that we do, every good deed that we carry out, everything that we do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it does not benefit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it only benefits ourselves. In one verse of the Quran regarding udhiyah, slaughtering an animal at the time of Eid al-Adha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ, that the meat of the slaughtered animal and the blood of the slaughtered animal does not reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, when we are slaughtering an animal, when we are sacrificing an animal, is not that the meat of this animal is going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see within us is how much taqwa we have. It is the taqwa that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that too does not benefit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it benefits us. So if we make this Ramadan of ours productive and we do good actions in this Ramadan, it is not going to benefit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is going to benefit us. It will benefit us in this dunya, in this world, and it is going to benefit us in the hereafter. The first thing that we are going to look at is a question, right? It's a rhetorical question. That is it true, right? And this is a question that we all need to ask ourselves. That is this true? That we start Ramadan, every Ramadan that comes, we started 2023 Ramadan, our previous Ramadan, we start with all the best intention. Every person thinks that I am going to do the best in this Ramadan. I will make this Ramadan the best of Ramadans of my life. And the end of Ramadan arrives and you feel guilty, realizing that you haven't done enough. Right? A person makes an intention that I am going to complete 5 recitals of the Quran. I am going to complete 10 recitals of the Quran. Right? I will make sure that I pray my tahajjud every day. I pray my fajr every day. I pray all my salahs every day. I perform my taraweeh properly every day. But when Ramadan finishes, we realize that we did not do enough. And then we comfort ourselves. We make ourselves feel good that next year, inshallah, I'll do better. And then the following year comes, and it's the same story every year. It's the same cycle every year. My dear brothers, this concept is called tasweef. Tasweef in the Arabic language means that a person says, Sofa, I will do later. Later I will do this. This is tasweef. So not this year, okay, I'll do it next year. Now what happens is a few days of Ramadan go by and we think to ourselves, okay, 10 days have already gone by. I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. I might as well just do whatever little I can, and then I'll see next year. Next year I'll make sure that it is going to be the best Ramadan. And many years passed by, and it's all the same as the first year. Right, what is Ramadan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That, O believers, fasting has been prescribed upon you, just as it was prescribed upon those before you, so that you may become conscious of Him. So there's three things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stating in this verse. The first is that kutiba alaykum as-siyam, fasting is mandatory upon you. So know well that a person has to fast in the month of Ramadan. That's the first thing, right? Unless a person has a valid Shari'i excuse, then only a person is exempted. The second is kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, that it was prescribed upon those before you. Fasting was made mandatory upon those that were before you. Now, fasting was different in nature for the ummats that were before our ummah. For example, we have the incident of Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam, the mother of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. Right? She, when returning with Isa alayhi salatu wassalam to her village, right, she said to the people that I am fasting. Right? I am fasting. Now that fast was not the fasting of food. That fast was of speech. So fasting differed in nature for the previous nations. However, the Mufassirun have mentioned that fasting for the Ahlul Kitab was of a similar nature that it is for this Ummah. Meaning is not something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only given to us, and the previous Ummahs were not tested with it. Even the previous Ummahs were also tested with this. And the third thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in this verse is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may adopt taqwa, so that you become Allah conscious. So the goal of Ramadan is taqwa, right? To achieve taqwa, this is the purpose of Ramadan. Then we have the other masalih, the hikam, the wisdoms, right? Every action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is full of wisdom. The principle goes that فِعْلُ الْحَكِيمِ لَا يَخْلُو عَنِ الْحِكْمَةِ, that the action of a wise person is never void of wisdom. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just a wise person, He is the most wise. He is Al-Hakim. He is the most wise. So there's many hikmahs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in fasting in the month of Ramadan. However, the objective, the purpose of the fast is taqwa, to gain Allah consciousness. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions how a person gains taqwa in the month of Ramadan. Right? One is the psychological effect the fast has on a person. Right? Eating is made halal for a person. Drinking is made halal for a person. Conjugal relations are made halal for a person. But in the month of Ramadan, from dawn till sunset, a person is not allowed to do these things. Right? So if a person is able to control the halal desires, then it is definite that a person is able to control his haram desires as well. Person makes an excuse that I cannot forfeit watching TV, or I cannot give up on music. So Allah Ta'ala is telling us in this month that if you are able to leave the halal things in the month of Ramadan, then surely you can leave the haram things in and outside of Ramadan. Right? لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a person more than the capacity that a person can take. So it is within our capacity to refrain from these things. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made these things haram upon us. So the goal of Ramadan is taqwa. Then we have other wisdoms, like for example, a person is sharing in the plight of the poverty-stricken individuals across the world, where they are also, suffering with hunger. So we can also feel the pain that these people are going through. So what is Ramadan? Right? What is Ramadan? Ramadan is the 9th month in the Islamic calendar, in the Hijri calendar. right? And fasting, Sawm during this month is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, right? We have 5 pillars of Islam. First is to testify that there is none worthy of worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is Salah. The third is Zakah. The fourth is Sawm. The fifth is Hajj. If any individual was to reject, any individual was to deny any of these 5 pillars of Islam, this person risks losing his iman, right? So if a person, right, he says that, Na'udhu billah, I do not believe in the fasting of the month of Ramadan being mandatory, this person risks losing his iman. And if a person, he does not practice on the fasting of Ramadan without a valid reason, this person is a flagrant sinner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made fasting compulsory for the Muslims in the 2nd year after Hijrah. Right? So this was not made compulsory in the Makki life, right? In the Meccan life, it was made compulsory after the Muslims had migrated to Medina Munawwara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم. That Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed as guidance for all people, and it consists of clear teaching. This is the sifa of Quran, the quality of Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here. Guiding and showing right from wrong. The Quran tells you, right? The Quran is Al-Furqan. Al-Furqan is that which tells you the difference between haqq and batil, which tells you the difference between right and wrong, which tells you the difference between truth and falsehood. Therefore, whoever witnesses the month must fast in it. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Right? Whoever witnesses the month of Ramadan, they should fast in the month of Ramadan. Let us now go through some of the exclusivities of the month of Ramadan. Those things, right, every month has its own special merits. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala has authored a great book by the name Lata'if al-Ma'arif, in which he goes into great details regarding the merits and virtues and the specialities of every month, right, starting from Muharram all the way till Dhul Hijjah. However, no person will deny that the month of Ramadan has many surplus virtues in comparison to the other months, right? And this has been outlined by Allama Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah ta'ala in Lata'if al-Ma'arif. This book's available in the English language as well, like we have the Islamic months by Mufti Taqi Uthmani hafidhahullah ta'ala, and books are also available in the Urdu language. So the first thing is that the Holy Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, He called the month of Ramadan the month of Quran, right? شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. This is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made mention of in the Quran. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would recite an entire Quran in the month of Ramadan to Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. And the year before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam left this temporary abode, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited the Quran twice to Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. The second point is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was blessed with prophethood in the month of Ramadan. The third is that good deeds are multiplied manifold. In according to one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said that up to 700 times, right? Okay, 700 times. Some say 70 times. It is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala however many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to multiply our good deeds. The next point is a person can attain the mercy and forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? In this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He pardons many people. Right? He frees many people from the hellfire, from Jahannam. Right? Especially at the time of Iftar. Right? It is mentioned in the hadith, especially at the time of Iftar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He emancipates many people from the fire of Jahannam. Right? A person can attain salvation, right, by doing the do's of Ramadan and refraining from the don'ts of Ramadan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chose to make fasting obligatory upon the Muslims. Right? Fasting in the entire year is not obligatory. Right? You have the sunnah fast. Right? A person fasts on the ayyamul bid, the white days. Right? A person fasts on the Monday and the Thursday. Right? A person can fast in Muharram. Right? On the 9th and 10th or 10th and 11th. Whatever, these fasts are not mandatory. Right? These are not obligatory fasts. But the merit of Ramadan is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this month to be the month in which Ramadan, in which fasting has to be carried out. And throughout the world, the Quran is completed millions of times, right? In masajid across the world, right? People are performing Tarawih Salah. And those places where you have many masajid, people are performing in their houses, right? Quran is being completed in the houses. People, if they don't have space, they make arrangements to perform Tarawih Salah in the garages, right? So people are performing Tarawih Salah and the Quran is being recited many times, millions of times in the month of Ramadan. Now let us go through some of the virtues of Ramadan, right? We will only appreciate the true merit of Ramadan when we are able to understand the virtues of Ramadan, right? A person only appreciates something when he knows the haqiqat of that thing, right? When a person has ilmul yaqeen and haqqul yaqeen, this is when a person will be able to truly appreciate that, right? You have a child, right? If you give a child a $10 note, right? And you give a child a chocolate which has been wrapped in some attractive color, some gold or silver color, the child does not understand that a $10 is worth more than that $1 sweet or chocolate that I am getting, right? So if you put that in front of the child will go and take the thing which looks appealing to him, right? But if that same child is told that, look, with that $10 you're able to buy 10 of these same sweets, right? Then that child will go for the $10, right? Similarly, when we truly understand the virtues and the merits of Ramadan, then only we will be able to sacrifice ourselves in attaining these virtues and these special merits of Ramadan. So when Ramadan arrives, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Ramadan arrives, the doors of paradise are open, right? The doors of Jannah are open for a person. When a door is open, what does it mean? If a person opens this door, right, and everyone is walking, the moment you see the door, that means it's easy entry, right? We are all allowed to enter it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening the doors of Jannah to show us that enter into this Jannah, right? As many people can enter, right? The doors of hell are shut. The doors of Jahannam are shut, meaning there is no entry, right? Only that person now is going to enter Jahannam in the month of Ramadan if he is going to force himself through that door, right? And the shaitans are chained up. The shaitan is chained up so that it makes it easier for a person to do good actions. Generally, a person is fighting two things. One is the shaitan, right? Inna shaytana lakum aduwan fattakhiduhu aduwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran that shaitan is an enemy for you, right? Fattakhiduhu aduwa. So treat him like an enemy. Take him as your enemy, right? So shaitan is our biggest enemy, right? He's always going to try and derail us. And he's promised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَأُذِلَّنَّهُمْ وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُبَتِّكُنَّ آذَانَ الْأَنْعَامِ وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. The summary of this verse is that shaitan is telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I will surely deviate your servants, right? I will surely deviate them. I will command them to do wrong actions, right? And shaitan will come from all angles. So our biggest enemy and our biggest challenge, right, is shaitan. And the second one is nafs, our own desires, our carnal desires that's within us. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it easy for us by chaining up shaitan, right, by taking shaitan away from the picture. Now if a person is carrying out wrong actions, then that means it's a person's own nafs that is making him do that, right? A person's nafs has become so attracted to haram, attracted to evil, attracted to vices, that it is not allowing him to leave those vices and go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying in Sahih al-Bukhari that the shaitans are chained up. Another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he says every action of the son of Adam is given manifold reward, right? Every action depending on a person's ikhlas, a person's sincerity and mudawama, how perpetually a person is carrying out those actions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward the person manifold. Each good deed receiving then times it's like up to 700 times, right? So it could be 10 times, it could be 700 times, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, has said, except for fasting, right? Except for fasting in the month of Ramadan, for it is for me and I will give recompense for it, right? إِلَّا الصَّوْمَ فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Except for fasting, because the person is fasting for me. Right? A person has no ulterior motive when it comes to fasting. It's possible that when a person is performing salah, a person will perform salah with such khushu and khudu. Right? So that when other people see, they notice that this person is, mashallah, very pious. Right? But when a person is hungry, no person will be able to tell that this person is just hungry just like that by just looking at the person. Right? So a person is fasting solely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He leaves off his desires and his food for me. For the fasting person, there are 2 times of joy. Right? لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ. Right? There's 2 times of joy. A time when he breaks his fast. Right? At that time, at the time of iftar, when a person is putting that date in his mouth, or he's putting that samosa in his mouth, or that spring roll in his mouth, or whatever he's putting in his mouth at that time. Right? لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ فَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ الْفِطْرِ. Right? Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that this joy that you feel is completely permissible. Right? Because a person, he refrained from eating for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to eat, so you should eat. Right? This is the essence of ubudiyah. This is the essence of servitude. That when Allah ta'ala tells you to do something, you do it. When Allah ta'ala tells you to refrain from it, you refrain from it. You don't show your strength and might in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? For example, a person, and he's been afflicted with some pain, with some grief, with some sorrow, with some calamity, right? So a person shouldn't present himself to be thick-skinned in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I'll fight it, right? People say that, he fought cancer, right? Or he fought COVID, right? A person doesn't fight COVID. If Allah ta'ala wants, a person could take that person away in cancer. If Allah ta'ala wants, he could take the person away in COVID, right? So we don't show our might and strength in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Because this is challenging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah ta'ala does not like that. Right? Allah ta'ala does not like a person to challenge him. Right? So feeling happiness at the time of iftar is showing servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That yes, I was in need of this food. I wasn't eating it because you told me not to eat it, oh Allah. But now the moment you've made it halal for me to eat again, I'm going to eat. Right? Because I need this nourishment. And the other one is فَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ لِقَاءِ رَبِّهِ. Right? The happiness, the pleasure of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? This is the end result, my dear brothers and elders. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith, مَنْ أَحَبَّ لِقَاءَ اللَّهِ أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ لِقَاءَهُ وَمَنْ كَرِهَ لِقَاءَ اللَّهِ كَرِهَ اللَّهُ لِقَاءَهُ. Whoever pleases to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also looking forward to meeting him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also pleased with meeting him. And whoever dislikes meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also dislikes meeting him. Right? So that happiness has been highlighted in the hadith. Right? By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the second happiness that a person who is fasting will face when he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason why this person is going to feel happiness at that time is because of the reward that he is going to see, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bless him with on the day when he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the next part of the hadith, the last part is لَخَلُوفُ فَمِ الصَّائِمِ أَطْيَبُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ رِيحِ الْمِسْكِ. That the odor which emits from the mouth of a fasting person, which other human beings will most probably dislike, right? A person does not like to sit next to another person because there's an odor emitting from his mouth. So here the hadith is stating that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his eyes, this odor is more beloved than the fragrance of musk, than the smell of musk. Right? Musk is a very sweet scent, right? And itar, you have rose musk, and you have gold musk, and you have all these different types of musks, right? So musk has a very sweet scent to it, right? And generally people like the smell of musk. So just the way a person, he is disliking that smell, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for him, he likes that smell more than the smell of musk. One more hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, he who fasts in the month of Ramadan due to iman, right? Iman in what? In the fardiyya of the fast, in the obligation of the fast. Meaning a person is fasting and he believes and he knows that he is supposed to be fasting. Right? This is something which is mandatory upon me. And hoping for reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then his past sins are forgiven. Just a point to mention here regarding these virtues that are mentioned in the hadith, that the sins are forgiven, right? A person's sins are forgiven when he does these actions and those actions. This refers to the minor sins, right? The minor sins, right? Innal hasanat yudhibna sayyiat, right? The minor sins are erased when the good actions are carried out. However, the condition for the major sin is that a person has to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person has to make istighfar. A person has to repent in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a person has to make a firm resolution not to carry that sin out again. Okay, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions 3 conditions for a person's tawbah to be accepted. One is that a person, he sincerely repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The second is that a person leaves that sin immediately, right? So a person is engaged in a major sin, right? And then he thinks, okay, I'll perform my salah and I will fast and that sin will get erased. No, a person will have to make tawbah and a person has to leave that sin immediately. And the third is a person has to promise, a person has to make a firm resolution not to carry out that sin ever again. But other than that, the minor sins that a person commits, right, these sins are forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when a person does good actions. Hakim al-Ummah Mawlana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that this differentiation and this categorization of sins into major and minor, this is just a point that came to mind right now, that this is just to look at the legal aspect of things, right, to look at the intricacies. But at the end of the day, a person should think that every sin is major because who are we disobeying? Right? We are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so every sin is actually major. And the purpose of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan is not like any other month. Its purpose is to rid of those habits which we have accumulated throughout the rest of the year. A person gets into certain evil habits throughout the year, right? So a person should use the month of Ramadan to detox from those evil habits, to get rid of those evil habits. 30 days a person is fasting. 30 days a person is living a life of restriction. So 30 days should be enough for a person to get into good habits and leave out the bad habits. It's a month that prepares us for the remaining 11 months by teaching discipline and self-control, right? A person, he's leaving out the haram, he's leaving out the halal as well, right? So a person is using self-restraint and self-control on himself. Thus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made some acts which are beloved to humans, like eating, drinking, and fulfilling one's desires, right? Haram, not permissible in this month. If we can control ourselves from other desires which are not permissible throughout the remaining months, then we can surely control ourselves from those things which are haram, right? If we can control the halal, then definitely we can control the haram. A breakdown of Ramadan, right? We have 3 asharas in the month of Ramadan, right? 3 sets of 10 days, right? The first ashara is today coming to an end, right? The first ashara has been mentioned, right? And this hadith is also in one of the ma'ajim of Imam Tabarani rahimahullah ta'ala. He says that the first ashara is the days of mercy, right? Awwaluha rahmah. Okay, so the first 10 days, the first ashara is of mercy, and this ashara now is coming to an end. But we should not be despondent. We still have the 2 asharas left, right? If a person feels that he needs to make amends, he can still make amends, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a chance still. The second ashara is the days of forgiveness, maghfirah, right? Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive, right? Make a list of the sins that we have been committing, right? Or that we normally commit on a habitual basis. Make a list of that and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive each and every sin that we are doing, and also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength and the power to refrain from those sins in the future. And the third ashara is the days of seeking refuge, right? That's supposed to be an S here, seeking refuge, right? We seek refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Jahannam. Itqum minan nar. Now, what virtuous actions are there in the month of Ramadan, right? The first and foremost, which is the highlight of the month of Ramadan, is fasting. We all know, right? Fasting from dawn, from sunrise till sunset for 30 days or 29 days depending on the lunar month. The second is iftar, breaking the fast at sunset. Okay, this is also a virtuous act in the month of Ramadan, and moreover a person making other people do iftar, right, has many virtues to that itself, right? Just if it's simple, something like dates, right? A date has been given to you, you give it to the other person, that person gives his date to you, right? You will fall under the category of man aftara sa'iman, right? So you will get the reward of assisting him in breaking his fast, and also for the fast that he kept. The next one is suhoor, right? Early breakfast meal before the start of Fajr, right? So this is the pre-dawn meal. Suhoor, there's many virtues that have been mentioned in the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Tasahharu fa inna fi as-suhuri barakah." That do suhoor, don't skip the pre-dawn meal. Firstly, don't think that you're not in need of it, and secondly, right, don't skip it out of laziness. Right, the person goes to sleep after Taraweeh and they don't want to wake up for suhoor, they wake up straight for Fajr. No, keep that meal of suhoor, right? Sit in that meal, eat something, right? Because there is barakah in that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there is barakah. There is barakah, the spiritual barakah, right? There is the barakah in following and emulating the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also a person will feel less hunger during the day, right? If he keeps the suhoor and eats the suhoor in the month of Ramadan. One sahabi, one tabi'i, he approached Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and he said to her that, O mother of the believers, right, fina rajulan, we have two individuals amongst us, right? Ahaduhuma yu'ajjiru as-suhoor wa yu'akhiru al-iftar, right? One of them, he eats the suhoor early, meaning eats the suhoor quickly, right, way before its time, and he delays the iftar. And the second one, right, yu'akhiru as-suhoor wa yu'ajjiru al-iftar, he eats the suhoor at its actual time right before it finishes, meaning he completes his suhoor before the ending time, and he hastens when it comes to iftar, right? So which one is correct? Which sahabi's action should we be following? So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she asked him that, who is it that delays the suhoor and hastens the iftar? So he said, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala an. So she said, هكذا فعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, or هكذا فعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that this is what the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, right? To hasten when it comes to iftar. Don't show that I'm not in need of that food, and make sure you do your suhoor not too early as well, half an hour, 1 hour before the time ends, right? This is why the ulama mentioned that if you are going to perform your tahajjud salah in Ramadan, you should perform your tahajjud first and then sit for suhoor. The next is qiyamul layl, right? The prayer after Taraweeh, Taraweeh, right? The prayer after Isha. Okay, so this is a special action for the month of Ramadan, a special practice for the month of Ramadan, which is exclusive for the month of Ramadan. The 20 raka'at Taraweeh salah after the Isha salah and before the witr prayer. And then we have qiyamul layl, right? Qiyamul layl is that salah which was performed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam throughout the year, right? And which was told to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal muzammil qumil layla illa qalila, right? That stay up in the night except for a small portion, meaning use that night in qiyamul layl, right? In performing your salah and your ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is 8 raka'at of tahajjud. Then we have i'tikaf, right? I'tikaf is seclusion in the masjid for 10 days, right? The last 10 days, the last ashara, right? Depending on, again, on the lunar month, whether it will be 9 or 10. But this is basically the i'tikaf. Now the i'tikaf, there's many types. There's sunnah, there's nafil, and there's obligatory i'tikaf, right? The i'tikaf that is done in the month of Ramadan in the last ashara, this is the sunnah i'tikaf, and it has its certain guidelines, right? Which will inshallah be mentioned in our next session on Saturday. Then we have Laylatul Qadr, right? Laylatul Qadr is to be found on the last 5 odd nights of Ramadan, right? This is the opinion which has been preferred, that it's in the 5 odd nights, so 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th or 29th of Ramadan. Generally we feel that it is the 27th, right? That's one opinion, that it's the 27th, but it could be in any of the last 10 nights, right? and it could also be in any of the last 5 odd nights as well. Then we have the recitation of the Holy Quran, right? Ramadan is the month of the Quran, right? Our pious predecessors, they used to ensure that they perform many recitals of the Quran, right? They recite and they complete many recitals of the Quran in the month of Ramadan. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam used to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam every night during Ramadan, and they would recite the Quran to each other, right? So this was the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Another is sadaqah, right? Sadaqah is optional charity, right? Sadaqah is optional charity, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was the most generous of people, right? And kana ajwad an-nas, he was the most generous of people. He didn't have much money. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam didn't own much, but whatever little he had, he would give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would give to people, right? But in the month of Ramadan, his generosity increased manifold, right? وَكَانَ أَجْوَدَ مَا يَكُونُ فِي رَمَضَانِ. In the month of Ramadan, he would give much more, right? Then we have zakah. Right? Zakah, again, is not exclusive to Ramadan. Zakah has to be given when a person's zakah date arrives, okay? So it could be before Ramadan, it could be in Muharram, it could be in Dhul Qa'dah, it could be in Dhul Hijjah. But generally, people have made it a habit of giving zakah in the month of Ramadan. So the easiest and best month to calculate zakah according to what people's practice is Ramadan. Then we have Sadaqatul Fitr. Right? Sadaqatul Fitr is the money given to the poor so they can enjoy the celebration of Eid. Right? Now, what are the Sadaqatul Fitr prices? You can see it on the box there, right? It's written there. If you want to see what the price is for Edmonton, look at it. And a person, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed a person, right, with wealth, then you shouldn't aim for the lowest amount. The lowest amount is just the threshold that you have to give. If Allah has blessed a person with more, right, then try to give more, right? When it comes to our Eid, we all like to be nicely dressed on our Eid, right? We like to have some decent food on our dastarkhan, right? We like our children to be dressed in nice clothing, right? We like, we have our family and friends around us, right? And we're eating good food. But think about the people in those countries where they don't have these facilities, right? I mean, don't they deserve something good as well, right? Can we be that selfish that we spend, I think the minimum amount is $14, right? Will we spend only $14 on our Eid, right? Or are we going to spend much more? So why should we just give $14 if Allah Ta'ala has given, right? Why should we just give $14, right, to a poor person to spend his Eid, right? Give more, right? Sometimes you have families, they have 5, 6 children, right? So try to give more. This is Sadaqatul Fitr. Sadaqatul Fitr, just like Zakah, is mandatory for a person who has the amount of nisab on the day of Eid. Provide food for people to break their fast. Right? This is another virtuous action that we can do. Right? So these are all actions that we can do to make our Ramadan productive. Right? Because we don't know which action on the day of Qiyamah is going to be the means of our salvation in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? A person should do as many actions they can do. Right? Many actions I can do. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala. Right? Somebody saw Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala in his dream. Right? And it was Junaid al-Baghdadi rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the two, right? They saw him in the dream and they asked him that Ma fu'ila bik, what happened to you? There's an entire book written on this, right? That what happened, an author, right? He's written a book in the Arabic that Mada fa'alallahu bik. This is the name of the book, right? That what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do to you? And these are all incidents of people who passed away, right? And then somebody saw them in their dream and they asked them, Mada fa'alallahu bik, or Ma fa'alallahu bik, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do with you? Right? And then he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave me for this action, for this action, for this action. So somebody saw this sheikh in the dream and he asked him, Ma fa'alallahu bik, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do with you? So he said to him that all the ulum, right, was kept on one side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He pardoned me for the 2 raka'at of tahajjud that I used to pray at night. Right? Somebody saw Imam Muhammad rahimahullah ta'ala and he asked him, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do with you? So he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pardoned me for all the ulum that I propagated to the people. Right? So we don't know which action of ours will be a means of our salvation in the hereafter. right? It could be our ilm, it could be our amal. So a person should do everything, right? You don't put the eggs in one basket, right? You should do as many actions that we can do. So all these actions that we have, these virtuous actions, person should try and do. Some of them are mandatory, so a person has to do them, and some of them are optional, so a person should try and attempt to do them. Distribute food to the poor people, help serve food in the masajid, provide dates and zamzam water, right? Partake in masjid gatherings and halaqas, right? This is a gathering that's taking place, partake in this, right? There's other gatherings that take place by other ulama, right? In this masjid, other masajid, a person should try and sit in those gatherings. Enroll in courses that will increase your Islamic knowledge, right? These things will basically benefit a person and make the person's Ramadan more productive. Ramadan is a glimpse of the person you can be every day, right? Just keep this in mind, that in Ramadan, the way we are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way we are courteous to the rights of other people, we can be like that throughout the year. If we can do it in Ramadan, we can do it outside of Ramadan as well. Benefits of fasting, right? What are the benefits of fasting for the 15-hour, 16-hour fast that we have? Right, one is drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person gains this qurb with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person acquires patience and strong will, right? Starving to reach excellence, right? A person is basically starving, a person's mind is becoming more clear, right? A person is detoxing from all the things that a person does or eats through the 11 months in the year. And in the month of Ramadan, when a person is starving, and there's actually a study that shows that those students who fast, right, in the month of Ramadan, they do better in the examinations in comparison to those who are not fasting, right? There was once this discussion going on, right? In the UK, we had that the month of Ramadan, the fast was 20 to 21 hours, extremely long, right? Just 4 hours, 9:35 you break your fast, 1:20 you've closed your fast, right? So the students would, the people were saying that the students will struggle to fast in the month of Ramadan. They have GCSEs, they have A levels. So a study was conducted at that time and it proved that when a person is fasting, a person excels even further. So every action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has got its merits and virtues. Refinement of manners, right? This is something which a person would have to work on, right, in Ramadan, so that it could carry on after the month of Ramadan as well. Recognizing one can change for the better. If a person, again, coming to the same point, if you can do it in Ramadan, you can do it outside the month of Ramadan. Being more generous and charitable. This is a automatic effect of Ramadan. A person generally becomes more generous and more charitable in the month of Ramadan, right, in comparison to the other months. Unity of the Muslims. We probably see the Muslims the most in the month of Ramadan, gathering in the masjid, right, at the time of Salah, or at the time of Iftar, at the time of Taraweeh, etc., right, than we see outside of the month of Ramadan. Then there's health benefits as well, which is a medical field which we're not going to go into, but these things will have positive effects on our body and learning discipline. Right? These are some of the benefits of the fasting in the month of Ramadan. Now there's 10 things that we should do before Ramadan. Obviously Ramadan has already started, so keep these points in mind, inshallah, and apply them next year. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with life next year, we should try and do these things next year. Number 1, to fast some days in the month of Sha'ban. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would fast in the month of Sha'ban. But if it is going to weaken a person, then a person shouldn't fast a few days before Ramadan, right? Give a few days of break, right, just so that the person is energized for the month of Ramadan. This will get you in the system, and then fasting will become easy. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to fast in the month of Ramadan, month of Sha'ban before Ramadan perpetually. Number 2, sincere tawbah and istighfar. Right, a person should make tawbah and istighfar for the sins, repent for the sins that a person has been committing. It cleanses the heart, so the barakah of Ramadan can enter the heart. Pray. Right, if a person is not in the habit of performing the salahs, the 5 daily salahs, then a person should start performing the 5 daily salahs. Right, because when it comes to Ramadan, if a person right, he thinks that I'll do this in the month of Ramadan, he's going to struggle, right? And I'll give you the example of manual cars, right? Here, generally, you guys use automatic cars, but with a manual car, right, you can't, from the first gear, you can't go straight into the fifth gear, right? The car is going to stall. So if a person is not performing salahs, person is not in the habit of reciting the Quran, right? A person is not in the habit of doing good actions, as soon as Ramadan comes and he says, I'll do all 5 salahs and I'll do my tarawih, a person is going to get burnt out, right? A person is going to struggle. But from the month of Sha'ban, you put yourself into the first gear, then the second gear, then the third gear, then the fourth gear, then the fifth gear, and now we have the sixth gear as well, right? A person will be able to do more good actions. Number 4 is zakat, right? We should start learning and preparing to calculate zakat. This is extremely important. Remember, those things that are fard on a person, those things that are obligatory on a person, the knowledge of that is also obligatory. If salah is obligatory on us, then to know the masail and the rulings of salah is also obligatory. If zakah is obligatory on us, then it is necessary, right, that we go to a course, we go to a workshop, we go to an alim, a mufti, and ask, right, that I need to give zakat, right? Just say I've not given zakat for this many years. How do I calculate it? What do I do? These are my assets. This is the money that I have. This is the debt that I have, that I owe other people, right? This is my business stock. What do I do? How do I give zakat on this? How do I calculate the zakat? This is very important. Number 5, giving up sins, right? We should give up all our bad habits before Ramadan starts. If we don't, they will carry on in Ramadan also. Because sins, right? First, shaitan is the one who makes us do the sins. After that, a person's own nafs makes a person commit the sins, right? So if we don't take that sin out of our nafs, if we don't take it out of our life, it's going to carry on in the month of Ramadan also. Number 6, have great terms with close ones. Forgive one another, help one another, advise one another, spring clean the heart, right? Do this before Ramadan so that the month of Ramadan we don't have any animosity in our hearts, right? And in fact, the ulama mention, based on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that on the 15th of Sha'ban, one of the individuals who is not going to be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a person who harbors ill feelings and enmity and animosity in the heart for another Muslim. Number 7, qada. If you have any fast from last Ramadan, make up for them before Ramadan starts, right? This was the practice of the respected mothers of the believers, radiyallahu ta'ala anhun, that they would complete their missed fasts right before the next Ramadan even comes. So also make up for any salah. If a person has got kafara, then do it, right? Meaning this is one way that this Ramadan will be your best one. You're starting this Ramadan, you've still got 20-30 fasts left of our previous Ramadan, right? So you will do this Ramadan, but you will still feel in your heart that there's that, black stain on this Ramadan. I wish I had completed all the previous fasts, then I done this Ramadan. If Allah Ta'ala has decided for me to go, right, and to meet Him, I am meeting Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala with a clean sheet. Number 8, plan your daily schedule, right? This will help you throughout Ramadan. Make a timetable, right? This is extremely important, right? A person should make a timetable according to one's own needs, right? And a person's own duties and responsibilities, right? A person is going to work Monday to Friday, so take out that 9 to 5, right? That, okay, this time is for work. All the other actions that I'm going to do are going to be besides this time, okay? Weekend, a person is free, so make a separate timetable for weekend, okay? So this is for Ramadan. Even for the whole year, a person should make a timetable, right? They call it nizamul awqat. It's very important, right? A person should make a timetable. For the summer months, make a separate timetable. For the winter months, make a separate timetable. So it's easy for a person to transition from the different climates, and a person is able to utilize the time wisely. Number 9, dua, right? Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a productive Ramadan, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make the dua, Allahumma sallimni li Ramadan wa sallimhu li wa tasallamhu mutaqabbala. This was a dua that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make for Ramadan, and way before that, Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa ballighna Ramadan. Oh Allah, bless us in the month of Rajab and Sha'ban and make us reach the month of Ramadan. So we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, this Ramadan is coming, make this Ramadan the best Ramadan of my life so far. And number 10, social media, right? Minimize it. Minimize social media. If a person can, then cut it out, right? A person should try and leave Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter as much as possible, right? Unless a person is using it for dini purposes, right? A person, if he's just using it just for socializing and to keep tabs on what things are going on, then a person should try and cut out on these things, right? Ramadan teaches us how to say no to our habits, right, desires and temptations. Okay, so Ramadan and productivity seems to be complete opposites. How can you focus when you are thirsty and hungry? And a person may ask that I am thirsty, I am hungry, how am I supposed to focus? So the interesting connection between fasting and productivity. Let us go through some of these points. Right? You become more conscious of your behavior and thought pattern. When a person is not eating and he's not filling himself, a person lives a more conscious life. Right? The detox is not just of the stomach, but it's of the brain also. Breaking of habits, especially the bad habits, is facilitated. Fasting reduces common time-wasting habits such as coffee, snack breaks. Right? Think about, you become more conscious of your behavior and thought pattern. How much time you spend nibbling on snacks, right? How much time goes in just our eating outside of Ramadan, right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then in between you have our tea times. Fasting allows your body to start the healing and regenerating process. How much time you spend nibbling on snacks. Fasting improves concentration and focus. Fasting allows your body to start the healing and regenerating process. Right? So this is some connection that we have between fasting and concentration, and the fact that we are hungry and thirsty, yet we are able to focus and concentrate. Some etiquettes of iftar. Give a hand in preparing food. If a person can, they should help in preparing the food for iftar. Right? Help bring the food to the dastarkhan, to the tablecloth. Right? Before the maghrib adhan, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Instead of focusing on the food and what's going on around us, a person should utilize that time to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sit in groups when it comes to eating. This increases mahabba. This increases brotherhood and unity. Right? When a person sits together and eats. Once you hear the adhan, break your fast. And it is sunnah to break your fast with water and dates. If a person has water and dates available, then a person should break the fast with water and dates. If that is not available, then whatever is available to a person. Recite the dua whilst breaking the fast. Right? Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu. This is one dua that has been mentioned in Ibn Majah. That, oh Allah, I have fasted for your sake and broken the fast upon your provisions. Then we also have the dua ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله تعالى. This is a dua to be recited after a person has broken the fast. ذهب الظمأ, that the thirst has gone. وابتلت العروق, the veins have become moist, and the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, through the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, been established. Try to avoid overloading your plate. Right? A person should, this is out of etiquette as well. And generally you'll notice when a person has not eaten throughout the whole day, a person will struggle to eat properly at the time of iftar anyway. And once you have completed your meal, help with cleaning and start to prepare for Taraweeh. After Taraweeh Salah, right, set an alarm for Sahri, for Suhoor. Right? A person should try and set an alarm up. Right? Wake up the family. If a person has woken up first, wake the other members of the family up. Right? Tell them to engage in tahajjud. Wake up, brush your teeth and wash your face. This is something that you can do, or just perform wudu instead. Right? Try to have wholesome foods which give you fuel throughout the day. So this is something, depending on a person, what will assist a person in not becoming too hungry when a person is fasting in Ramadan. Eat those foods. Consume the appropriate amount of water. Right? So a person is not dehydrated during the day, and a person doesn't get a dry mouth. Brush your teeth so that there's no remnants of food left in the teeth, and perform tahajjud salah, and perform your tahajjud salah. Either you could do it the other way around, perform your tahajjud salah and then have your suhoor. This will be better. And then this brings us back to the cycle of waking up in the morning and fasting, and waking up for suhoor and doing our suhoor and coming to the masjid for the fajr salah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our Ramadan fruitful and beneficial, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to spend this blessed month in a manner which will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.